We will be working on 2-point perspectives on site this week, and first we'll start creating a series of thumbnails with different compositions. So you'll use your viewfinder, find some interesting 2-point compositions, and sketch 6 of those first. And remember that the thumbnails are intended to be quick, so try to limit yourself to 5 to 7 minutes for each thumbnail. And really, I want you to mainly focus on getting the correct perspective, finding the horizon line, finding your vanishing points, and starting to vary your line weights as we practiced so that you can show what is closer to you, further away, but really not a lot of detail because you're just trying to test out the composition and create the structure and construction lines for the drawing. So I already worked on the pavilion a little bit here as an example. I did want to point out that one trick on site you want to use to figure out where your vanishing points are. It's not quite as obvious with 2-point perspective because you've got 2 vanishing points. They're not going to be directly in front of you anymore like you can locate with 1-point perspective. So for 2 points, you really want to focus on where are the lines of the structure of the building going. And one trick is to hold out your pen and align it parallel to the lines that you see. So that's what I did here, and I snapped a couple photos on my phone of me doing just that. I'm holding out my pen, closing one eye, and I'm making sure it's aligned with the lines on the planking here. And so I can see what angle it's at, and I can translate that angle down to my sketch approximately using my observational skills. It can also help me determine, okay, follow it, where is the point coming to with these lines. So that's an example for that side. Now on the other side, where is that point on the right, can also use the same trick, align it to the bottom. Now this isn't a straight wall, but you can think of things in terms of cubes. Even if my building isn't a cube, I can sort of put it in a box and think about where is that bottom floor line headed to. So even though this is broken up, I still see it as a line. I still think of the structure as creating a line and then figuring out where does that line go, and then same with the top here. It's not a perfect line, but it's still a vanishing point for me to start to construct the drawing. And then that's what I used to help me set up this small perspective here, this thumbnail perspective. For the next one, I'm going to use a book. This is not the book you have. This is Understanding Perspective, the Urban Sketching Handbook. And I've got a few of these scanned in for you to view, but this one is, let's see if I can get both of these on the page there. Okay, so we're looking at a corner of a building. So that's how you want to set up your exterior 2-point perspective, is find an interesting building and then look at the corner of the building. And you're going to see there's no real horizontal lines. All the lines are converging to those 2 points for the 2-point perspective. Now there is one horizontal line that you're going to want to use though, and that's the horizon line, the eye level line. So that's still one of the first things you're going to want to find and set up in your drawing. So I'm going to use a lighter line weight here to figure out where that horizon line is. And you can still use that further corner of the building to sort of establish like a ground plane. And then from that you can figure out what is my eye level height, where is my horizon line. So if someone were standing there, how tall would they be? I'm going to add in horizon line. Oftentimes your horizon line may fall off the page. The thumbnail can be able to stretch it out and draw your vanishing point, but when you're drawing the full page, you're going to have to imagine where the point is. I was still drawing the line. Imagine where the point is intersecting with the line and then work to that line. So it's a little tricky, but using all the tools that you have, I think you can make it work. Okay, so the first thing you want to do with the 2-point is establish that corner. So the most prominent corner, the one closest to you, is a nice vertical line. So your vertical lines are going to stay vertical always. And so I've got this nice vertical corner here. And then you want to start to figure out where your points are headed to. I'm going to switch to a heavier line weight so you can see a little better. Okay, so that's my prominent corner. And then I can tell that this bottom edge is heading to a point off the page, maybe about here. And I can tell the perspective's looking correct already because this angle is very slight. It's not a harsh angle. So it's a very slight angle, but this angle on the roof line is more pronounced. So that's looking correct. And now my other point is going to be along this line too. It's a matter of figuring out exactly where. And just using observational skills, looks like it's about like that, and then the top. And notice that although this building, it's not a cube, but I'm finding the cubes as I can. So yeah, it has a bit of a roof, but I'm simplifying it into a cube at first. And then just like you drew your boxes, you find the back edge on each side. So you can, this is the front side is shorter than this side. So I'm going to make sure that the same appears true in my sketch. So darken this up a little bit. Now what's tricky is figuring out this gable in the front. And so you may often want to use this trick shown here where you lightly draw an X, because we know that this is actually a square. Lost my page. Well, anyway, it's actually a square, so you can connect the corners, and that can help you find your midpoint, and then you can use that midpoint to draw your gable. Okay. Now, with these, like I say, I just want you to find the overall composition and the structure of the 2-point perspective. So maybe you add a little more detail. I think there's some columns in front here. So you can add some detail just to define it a little bit. Maybe there's some context. But largely I want you to move quickly with these, because the next step would be to enlarge 2 of your 2-point perspectives and to start to add watercolor, shading and shadow, scale figures, similar to what I have begun here with this sketch. So focus your energy on, once you grasp how to construct and you're testing out different methods of finding your 2-point perspective, then focus your energies on really refining your larger sketches.